please. Everybody, have a seat. Have a seat. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Tech School podcast powered by DSDT. Carlos, how is it going, good friend?
I'm not going to complain because nobody wants to hear it. Glad to be
No.
here, Josh. How are you today?
Doing well, sir. Doing quite well. I will complain. It's very cold outdoors here in Metro Detroit.
I'm going to complain too, just a little bit.
It's just a little.
I don't have the beard you have no more. I'm just saying, man. You're looking kind of distinguished over yonder.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you. I think I'll keep it for a while.
You going to keep it for a while?
I think so.
So does the beard become you, or what's the reasoning behind it?
You know what? My mother, who did not like it originally, she said a few weeks into it, she said, it's starting to become you.
Yeah. I like the beard of you too.
Get yours back, man. Get yours back.
Yeah, well, I'm working. I'm trying to work on what's upstairs. I'm just saying.
Yeah. All right. Hey, so you went out to California last week?
Yes, I did, Josh. Yes, I did.
And
do we have to talk about it? Huh?
I guess not.
Yeah, do we have to talk about it? Listen, The one thing I can say that I loved about, I was in the LA area, and one of the biggest things that I really loved was I got a chance to see the Pistons play the Lakers.
Oh, you went to that game. And that game in LA was following the incident at LCA.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you know what? Well, since you mentioned it, describe the atmosphere, the vibe.
Hey, listen. So, back in the days when the bad boys were the bad boys, Isaiah and the whole squad, or even when what's his name? I can't remember his name. The second phase.
Ben Wallace, Rasheed Wallace.
Ben Wallace. Yeah, Ben Wallace. You read right top of my mind, right? So once that era was here, I wasn't necessarily in Michigan at the time. I as you already know, I grew up in Arkansas, and so I never had an opportunity to see those games in person. Right. So, of course, the team is rebuilding right now, and we're going through a phase. But I can tell you the one thing that I loved about being in Staples Arena was the fact that it was electrifying. It was electric. I mean, if I could be honest, it seemed to not be a seat that was opened, and it was just, I don't think that the halftime shows were as good as the ones that we have here at Little Caesars. But at the same time, the game itself, it was like, wow. Now, of course, I'm not no LA fan. I just keep it 1,000. I'm not a Laker fan. Not at all, right? I like some of the players, and I thought that they played a great game. But I'm still a hometown down the heart. I love the Pistons. I love what they're doing with Cade right now. And, it is what it is. If I could go see a game every time that they played Pistons, and I had some nice seats, I'd come.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I'd come.
Absolutely. We'll have to see if we can get that figured out, get you to a few more games.
Well, Josh, I'm just saying, people who know people, people.
Okay. Let's see what I can figure out. Let's see what I know. Okay.
Most definitely, right?
Hey, indeed, sir, indeed. So I like some of the topics we're going to discuss today. One is content. Content is the king of everything. And content comes from what we're on right now. Our computers, our laptops, our tablets, our iPods, etc. iPads.
Yeah. I found it intriguing for the simple fact that so many times you will hear those, especially the gurus, in the arena, they always make the statement, content is king. Content is king. I never knew Bill Gates was the person responsible for that adage. I never knew it. And so that's kind of, and it's nice, if you go back and read the white paper in regards to it from 1996 and the things that he was talking about, how much they've come to fruition, and even more so as we're looking into the metaverse, right? So I definitely want to see what our guest of the hour, Miss Tish Delano, who's an instructor at DSDT, the digital media program. I definitely want to see what her opinion is in regards to the digital marketing or the digital media content piece.
Yeah, I like part of this quote. Content is where I expect much of the real money will be made on the internet, just as it was in broadcasting. Low
Yeah.
quote from Bill Gates. Yeah,
Yeah.
content is king.
Yeah, and so we can get. I really can go down that rabbit hole, but I don't want to do it without first
Oh,
bringing on the person of the hour, Miss Tish Delano.
Hi.
Hi. Good afternoon, Tish. How are you?
Good. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Nice and cold day.
Hey, you guys keep talking about it's cold. Do you understand that we have viewers all around the world? I mean, literally all around the world. It's not cold everywhere.
But it's
Who
so
cares if
cold
I
in
have
the
a turtleneck on? Who cares if I have this blazer and I'm freezing? You know what I'm saying?
When Carlos asked, "Do you want to do it remotely today?" I said, "No problem."
Right. Yeah.
And therefore, you gotta love technology.
Yep.
And
I've
speaking
made
of
my career on
technology,
it.
absolutely, you are a digital media instructor, Tish, at DSDT. And Carlos and I were just discussing this article with Bill Gates that was published in 1996.
Yeah.
And he came up with the phrase "content is king." What did he mean by that? What does he mean by that?
When I read that article, I was absolutely floored. I didn't realize how old it was. And then he starts talking about dial-up, and I was like, wait a minute. But I mean, he truly was onto something. These days, TV, radio, they're not as popular as they once were. People are now using social media, streaming services, and content truly is king. Content is what fuels social media. Content is what fuels YouTube. YouTubers may be called influencers, but really they're content creators. If you're make generating memes and pumping them out on Reddit, you're a content creator. I mean, these days, yeah, content rules our lives.
Yes,
So,
indeed.
so as I was trying to get my mind wrapped around the whole content piece, how does digital media play a part in that conversation? What does even digital media mean?
So digital media is anything that relies on digital technology for its creation, its distribution. So, I mean, a lot of billboards these days are digital media because they're digital now instead of paper. But even then, somebody created it on a computer. Like I said, memes are digital media, videos, digital media, podcasts are digital media. Digital media has an incredibly broad definition. And within digital media, I mean, film and video, incredibly broad these days, graphic design, incredibly broad. Like I said, even broadcasting, we're now switching over to podcasts versus traditional radio. Even most radio shows have their own podcasts. So yeah, digital media, it's everywhere. You can't escape it.
You raise a good point. When I'm watching ESPN, for example, some of the analysts on there on First Take, they'll be conducting their broadcasting responsibilities, but then also producing or promoting their podcasts as well.
Yeah, even churches have podcasts these days. I mean,
wow.
Yeah, it's most churches have, social media. Some have their own YouTube pages. You'll find them hiring for digital media specialists to broadcast, every Sunday, for their people that can't make it in. And that was before COVID. So now, I mean, if you hadn't gotten on board yet, I don't know what you're doing.
So is today's text of digital media the same as it was back in the day of when Bill Gates first wrote this article back in 96? Is it the same? I don't know, the same substance?
I mean, I think the seeds were there. like I said, as I'm reading it, he's talking about dial-up, how nobody wants a big ad that is going to take forever on your dial-up connection. And I am old enough to remember dial-up.
Back
then, if you, yeah. I always tell my students, I'm like, listen, I'm not going to say how old I am, but I am old enough to remember some of this stuff. We could not imagine. Can you imagine just streaming a song on dial-up? Or streaming something like this on dial-up? It would never happen. And if you did even get 5 seconds of it to load, your mom would pick up the phone and disconnect you.
So, okay, so we were just saying how I was able to go out to LA this past week. And one of the takeaways that I had was how many people I came into contact with, and they had these dreams of being actors. I even met a young man who was a waiter at a restaurant or hostess at a restaurant, and he moved to LA from Mount Pleasant here next to Detroit.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And, as I think of that in correlation to content being king from 1996, I literally sat there and asked myself, why would you do that? Why would you do that? Because it seems now like the vehicle of digital media affords us not to have to move to LA, to New York, in order that we would be able to express the things that we have a passion for, express our talents, our abilities. Am I wrong in my view of that?
Are you asking the question, is digital media making us lazy?
No, I wouldn't. I'm not going to say that it makes us lazy. I'm going to say that it affords us more opportunities than in the day of 1996. Absolutely. There was a day when you had to move to LA in order to get noticed, but nowadays with digital media, we have the Instagrams, we have the YouTubes, we have all these other platforms that we're able to get in front of thousands, if not millions of people at one time in order for them to see what we have to offer. Isn't that a form of advancement within the digital media industry?
Oh, absolutely. I would 100% agree with you, Karlos, because look what we're doing right here, right now. You, me, and Tish, we're in 3 different locations, and we're bringing you a live podcast. 10 years ago, 20 years ago, that would not be possible, let alone in 1996. So Bill Gates, as Tish alluded to, Bill Gates, as we all know, has always been ahead of his time. And what we're doing right here, right now, is just a tiny drop of that.
Okay, so Josh, where were you in 1996? I'm just asking questions. You don't have to give any specifics. I'm just asking.
I plead the 5th.
Okay, all right, so we won't get into it. I do remember where I was in 1996. My son was born in April of 1996. Well, one of my sons was born in April of 1996. And I remember when that kid was probably 2-3 years old, and him being at the computer and playing one of his games. And I can remember hearing the dial-up modem connecting. That whole AOL thing. How far have we advanced since those days, right?
Wow.
You have so many different venues in which you're able to create and show your talents within the digital media spectrum. So, Tish, kind of explain to us some of the experience that you bring as an instructor at DSDT in the digital media program, if you will, please.
Sure. I started with video, which is where a lot of us that end up at digital media start. And I'm talking back working with a camera that had the VHS tape that went inside. Not to age myself too much there. But yeah, I started with video, just creating videos, expressing myself creatively through that as much as I could. And eventually I realized that was my passion. That's really what I wanted to do. So I started a small production company, just taking whatever jobs anyone would get me, and I was doing it on the side. Eventually I went back to school. I worked full time and commuted to Farmington Hills to study digital media and get a diploma that would help me be able to do it full time. And before I even graduated, I had a job with Crime Stoppers of Michigan as their digital media specialist. So I think I was on the right track. I think I picked the right career path. I've done videos for nonprofits. I make flyers because digital media, like I said, it's all encompassing, and the more skills that you bring to the table, even if you're not the greatest at them, the more skills you have, the more employable you are, the more jobs that you can get if you're freelancing and trying to do it as a side hustle or your full-time hustle. I've videos, flyers, I've done some web design. I had to learn photography at one of my jobs. It was on the fly. I was just like, well, I can shoot video, hopefully I can take photos. And I learned, and it was great experience, and I feel like I'm pretty well-rounded now.
One of my favorite parts of this podcast, Karlos and Tish, is when questions come in. Therefore, let's put this one out there. How do you expect the digital media industry will change in the future? What can we look forward to?
I definitely feel like there are definitely still companies that everything is specialized. There's a department for the graphic design. There's a department for this and for that. And in the smaller companies, you're doing it all. You're doing everything. You're doing the graphic design, the video, all of that, tweaking the website for them. And I feel like, unfortunately, that is both unfortunately and fortunately, that is where we are moving when it comes to digital media, is that they're going to expect, even when they need a team and everyone's got their strengths, they're going to expect everyone to be able to have some knowledge of everything, so that you're never just sitting there going like, well, there's no video right now, so I guess I'm just going to sit here for a while until the next project comes down the tube. I think things are going to get quicker and bigger, and with we'll see where the whole metaverse thing goes. I'm already hearing buzz about jobs galore with the whole metaverse, and I mean, VR is taking off. I think it's just going to get bigger and bigger, and those of us that learned stuff 5 years ago, we have to stay active and have to stay in it, because otherwise these 10-year-olds on TikTok right now, they're going to fly right past us.
I mean, we laugh at that, right? But just last evening, I was in one of my rabbit holes, whether you believe it or not. Late in the evenings, I do that, right? And I was looking at these NFTs that this 10-year-old kid designed.
Yeah.
10-year-old kid had an NFT line that I was looking at called Basic Beast. And he's developing it with a friend of his. And I thought, wow. I read through one of my meta feeds of a 12-year-old that just released a NFT line a few weeks ago and already has made about roughly 1.6 million.
I know.
And I pause. 1.6 million. When you talk about digital media skills, that's where we're headed. You know, and I mean, I could literally speak on for hours about this, but if you've ever thought about, as a creative, building a portfolio in which you would showcase some of those one-dimensional images that you have to begin to consider what's happening with the metaverse, as it's called, and there's other variances of it. But what's going on with NFTs? If you don't understand what an NFT is, sit yourself down like a Karlos does in the middle of the night and get into a rabbit hole on YouTube. Learn as much as you can about it, because that is where we're headed. Has anybody ever watched the movie Ready Player One besides me? Anybody? Josh?
You might be alone on that one, my friend.
Josh!
I have I have a familiarness with it, but I haven't watched the movie.
Listen, you guys have a class assignment as of now. I'm just saying, I know you don't have a lot of time, right? Because you guys are so busy. You're instructors, you're newscasters, you all these big wigs. Ready Player One before the next session.
Player One. Okay.
Ready Player One. When you talk about what happened at Facebook with the meta and changing, when you're talking about what we're trying to do with VR and AR, when you're talking about cryptocurrencies and, Bitcoin, Litecoin, and all these variances, Ready Player One. Do yourself a favor, watch it, and once you do, you will say, Karlos, wow.
Yeah. And I think even spinning off of NFT, I started learning about NFT. I mean, obviously, we've been hearing about it for a while. I started learning about it on TikTok because there's a lot of NFT creators on TikTok. And I think that's the other thing that you have to watch when it comes to digital media is what are the social media trends? Where are people spending their time? People are spending their time on TikTok. People are getting famous off of TikTok. People are earning a living making TikToks. And I was ornery and did not get into it until the pandemic when I got so bored I had no choice. But, Instagram had to change their platform and their algorithms to try to remain competitive with TikTok. YouTube added shorts to try to remain competitive with TikTok. It's important to follow these trends because that is also going to inform where is digital media going.
Here's a question. What are some of the basic skills, programming, languages, etc., that one should get into to get started in digital media?
I mean, basically, to get started in digital media, I mean, I'm assuming you have a phone. That's what I tell my students. I'm like, if you have a phone and it has a working camera, I'm like, boom, there's your entryway. That's like, you can take photos and start playing with editing, and I don't just mean slap an Instagram filter. Some of my students would get bitter because I make them go through the steps in Photoshop. And they're like, why? I can just hop into Photoshop. I'm like, but it's not the same. You're not going to get the same product and same, editing videos. They're like, this would be so much easier if I did this in Instagram Reels or in TikTok's video editor. I said, yeah, but you're not going to get as good of a product. That's a good place to start. That's not going to require you to buy anything. Start playing around there. And like I said, and see what's going on in social media. Social media is going to inform you what the digital media trends are. And eventually, employers are usually about a couple years behind, but employers are going to catch up. So it gives you a little bit of time.
Oh, I really like this question here. With the rate of change in digital media space, is it still relevant to get a certification? That's a good question.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, and truly it is. One of the barriers that I always faced was, I got a certification, a diploma instead of a bachelor's degree because, like I said, I was working full time. I was going through major life change. I was moving. I did not have time to, sit around for 4 years and get a bachelor's. I did a 1-year accelerated program, much like what DSDT offers now. And I found that for a while, I had a lot of resistance. People like, oh, well, I want a bachelor's degree. And then they started to realize like, okay, but experience matters more than a bachelor's degree. And while I think you can get a job with just like, here's the content I've been creating for the last like 5 years on Facebook and Instagram, and I have this following and stuff. But I feel like employers still like to see that you had some sort of education. It means that you're not learning on the job, the official way to do things. And that's why I went back because I was like, yeah, I could try to get a job without any proper schooling and having taught myself all this stuff. But I'm so glad I went to school because there were a lot of gaps in my knowledge. And I would not be where I am if I had not done my due diligence and gone back and put in the time and the effort.
I like the way that she says there was a lot of gaps in her knowledge, right? So I myself, I'm autodidactic. I love it. I love to be self-taught, which is why I go down rabbit holes. But at the same time, I also understand that there's things that I don't know that I don't know.
Yeah.
And that's why having instructors that have been trained on the subject matter is a great thing to have. Whether it be the student base that we have here at DSDT, you don't necessarily want a Karlos who's autodidactic to be trying to tell you the latest trends in digital media, because I'm going to give it to you the bootleg way. I'm just saying, I'm going to give it to you the bootleg way. you know? So you actually want those industry professionals that not only have the experience, but they have been formally trained in order to give you what you know, so that it'd be a quicker route from A to Z. Because otherwise, I'm going to have you from A to Z, back again, and all around, as would a lot of individuals akin to me.
With that being said, Tish, you being an instructor at DSDT and having tons of experience with digital media, how are you formulating your curriculum from one semester to the next?
I mean, my first semester, it was like start from scratch and just go with the flow. I was literally updating 2 days before, as I'm trying to figure out like what is, what speed, what level of experience are my students at, what can I anticipate. And now that I think I've got it pretty down, I'm looking at what are the trends, what are the gaps that we're not teaching yet. Like, we don't do podcasting yet at DSDT, but I managed to find some room in my curriculum that when I cover audio for video to kind of sandwich those in, I cover a little bit of podcasting to get my students thinking, because you don't need a ton of equipment and stuff to do a podcast. The more knowledge you have, obviously, the easier it's going to be. And I say that as a podcaster. Wish I had did broadcasting while I was at school too, because I think it would have made it easier, less of a learning curve. But I at least want to get them thinking. And as I learn about these new things, like I'm already thinking like, okay, next class period, I definitely, maybe in the graphic design day, I want to talk about NFTs. I want to put together a lecture. So that's something I'm going to do in my downtime when my students are in lab. It's like, okay, I'm going to start putting together a lecture about NFTs, because I was trying to explain to my fiance yesterday what an NFT was, and he was like, and I was like, yeah, I think I need to like look up a real formal definition. I was like, because I was like, it's art, but it's like digital art, but you don't own it, but you do, and there's crypto. And he's like, okay, you need to stop.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's a question that I definitely would like to get your insight to. Do you feel that all the digital media trends take away from having a personal connection to people, like writing a letter, sitting face to face with people, etc.?
I think that's been a stigma about social media and digital media, that, it's taking away from our ability to connect with people. But I mean, they said the same thing about the bicycle when bicycles became popular in the Victorian period. Is like, it's people aren't talking anymore, they're out riding bikes. I mean, you can say that about anything, and if anything, I feel like it helps us connect even more. The amount of friends I have across the country that I would never have met if it weren't for, they commented on a video I posted. A fellow podcaster who's in the UK, I can't remember exactly which country, but he listened to my podcast and we've kind of like connected there. Like, and I would have never had this opportunity. And I don't have the attention span, never have since I was a kid, to, sit down and write a letter. Wasn't really good at that whole pen pal thing, but email, electronic mail, is what helped me be able to maintain pen pals. And now Facebook Messenger and Instagram's messenger service, and all of those things have helped me stay in better contact with people, family members. So I don't think it takes away at all. I think it's just a different experience. And,
I
obviously,
believe that.
Yeah,
And
nothing replaces face to face.
Don't forget about the emojis. That adds a personal connection.
Right. So
hey,
I believe that it has definitely connected us even more. Now I don't know about you guys, but I walk out to the mailbox every evening once I get home. And I can tell you that a lot of times I get mail out of the box, it goes straight into the trash. I never even look at it. But so many times I find myself in my email and I'm flipping and I'm rolling and I'm reading, and I am more connected today than I ever would have been prior to. It is what it is. I actually had to turn off notifications for emails text messages and messenger in order that I wouldn't be distracted as much. I mean, we're just so intertwined, and anybody can reach out to me at any given time. I had somebody call me the other day. I didn't even know who the heck it was. My wife was like, "Who is that?" I'm like, "I don't know, and I'm not answering it." You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't know who the person is. And now that because we're friends on Facebook, you have the privilege of calling me anytime. If you don't know my number, don't call me like that. I don't know you like that.
Yeah. Obviously, there's a dark side to all of it. It's easy to become addicted. I mean, you've gone down late night rabbit holes on YouTube. I can't tell you how many times I'm like, I'm just gonna open TikTok for just a minute. I'm just gonna watch a couple of videos. I'm just looking for this one thing, and then I'm getting off, and then I look up, and it's been 45 minutes. And I will admit, like during the lockdown, there were times I look up and it was like 2 hours. I'm like, ooh, putting the phone away like that. It is easy to lose yourself.
So from one of the viewers right now, Mandy makes the reference that having said all of that, she loves getting a personal letter or card, and nothing beats a hug, except in the metaverse, baby.
No, I think after the last couple of years, I think we can all agree, social media, digital media, all of the advances in technology have made being connected so much easier, but truly, like, it cannot replace, it can't replace that. Nothing can. At least, yet. I'm sure Bill Gates or Zuckerberg are working on like a hugging robot right now that will totally replace hugs, but
Yeah. I cannot let you leave without giving some reference to the work that you've done with Crime Stoppers.
Yes.
One of the reasons all the more why Tish is even with us as an instructor at DSDT is because of the phenomenal portfolio she brought with her. How long were you with the program, Tish?
I was with Crime Stoppers for almost 2 years.
2 years.
Yep. And then I turned the reins over to my intern when I left.
And so as we were getting ready for this piece, we found that Crime Stoppers had been recognized with their Digital Media Award, and I thought that was phenomenal.
Yeah.
So definitely want to say hats off to you and thank you for all the work.
Thank you.
That you did with them.
I don't want to take credit for somebody else's stuff. So that one is actually the Crime Stoppers of Genesee County, which they do have a separate one from Crime Stoppers of Michigan, but I do want to give Crime Stoppers a shout out. When I started there, they've had digital media specialists for years. But the advancements that they allowed me to make and that I was able to then pass on and carry on, the first time a press conference that I filmed and put out there and went really hard with the social media campaign, the first time one of those crimes got solved and a family saw justice for their son, that was truly, it changes your life, stuff like that. And I always include that in my when I'm teaching my students, that this work does have meaning. It just depends on what you're doing. But
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I can say for sure that Crime Stoppers is an active, very important organization here in Metro Detroit, to say the least. And to see it evolve in the digital media universe as well, that's just another needed tool as it continues to do its work in fighting crime. So kudos to you.
Thank you. And I'm really thankful to them, like I said, for giving me my first full on digital media job where I didn't have another job. Like, that was my job. But also they gave me they helped me kind of get me on the path of realizing I wanted to be an instructor, because they let me start an internship program, both long-term and short-term. And I was teaching interns, and that's when I realized, I like this. I think I want to teach this someday. And that became one of my goals.
And it just shows you right there how even Crime Stoppers, an organization that fights crime, is self-explanatory, is using digital media.
Yes.
It's just part of the evolution.
It is. And I'm really looking forward to seeing where they go. By the way, they are a nonprofit. If anyone is looking this Christmas season to make a donation, I don't work there anymore, so I don't get anything out of this, but I still very much, I support what they do for the families of the victims, and it's good people that work there, and they work hard. So
beautiful. Well, Tish, we'd like to thank you for giving us a moment of your time. We do understand that you got students to teach. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I gotta hit the road to get to class.
But thank you for all that you do for DSDT. Thank you for the wealth of knowledge that you bring to the fold. And also, we look forward to having another conversation with you in the days and weeks to come.
Yes, I look forward to coming back.
Take care. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, Josh, my good friend, it's that time when we will say that coming up next, we will have our student guest. His name is Mr. Thomas Hardiman, and Thomas is going to come in and kind of give us some insight into his experience with DSDT. And I'm really looking forward to this because he actually developed video game development skills. I'm gonna have him explain all that. But in the meantime, we definitely got to pay some bills before we have Thomas come out. Okay.
Right now, there are job opportunities in the tech industry we can train you for. In our newly renovated state-of-the-art facility, classes are beginning monthly in cybersecurity, drone technology, digital marketing, computer programming, film production, and many, many others. If you live in the Metro Detroit area and you're looking to learn a skill local employers are demanding, but one that isn't that of a laborer, at DSDT, you can learn a lot in less than a year.
Hello, I'm Jason Stemmer. I served 5 years as a combat engineer in the United States Army. In the summer of 2019, I joined DSDT to learn advancing technologies in computer support, networking, cybersecurity, many valuable tools in digital media. DSDT is partnered with a lot of veteran-friendly employers, and with the help of DSDT's job placement assistance, I was able to quickly begin work in the IT field. I'm very pleased with this direction, as there is unlimited potential in the technology field, with no signs of growth or demand ever slowing. So come in for a visit, take a tour, and schedule a meeting with an advisor. DSDT really changed my life for the better, and it can change yours.
At the Detroit School for Digital Technology, we strive to provide students who are willing to learn new and exciting skill sets with a quality education in cutting-edge film technology to include recording in HD and 4K formats, drone videography, editing, and state-of-the-art color grading. Our instructors are friendly, knowledgeable industry professionals who are willing to teach. For more information, call us at 313-263-4200 or visit us on the web at dsdt.tech.
Okay, welcome back, Carlos. A great conversation with Tish, and we're going to continue that kind of conversation with our good friend Thomas, correct? And you said something about his experience at DSDT and how he created some kind of video game development.
Thomas was one of our students in the video gaming program.
Okay.
And from what I understand, I can only go by what the instructors tell me. He was probably, if not the best. And so I'm eager to speak to Thomas. As a matter of fact, let's not even hold him up. Why don't we just bring him on out?
Hey, how y'all doing?
Doing well. How are you, sir?
I'm all right. I appreciate the compliments. I do appreciate that.
Hey, so let's get into the program first of all, and then we want to learn more about the work you've done. Okay. Carlos, you never mentioned anything to me about a video game program at DSDT. Let's start there.
So that would actually go a bit off the radar. So let me explain it this way. When Thomas took the program, and I won't go into the exacts, but when Thomas took the program, Thomas specifically wanted to get into video game development. Right. And one of the instructors that we had at the time was very much so in the industry as well. And he had a lot of knowledge that he could and would be willing at that time to impart on Thomas. And so it was kind of like a match made in heaven.
Yeah.
Now, we didn't necessarily have the official title of the program, and it definitely would be something that I would love to visit with everything that has happened since Thomas completed his program here, right? But I mean, Thomas can attest to his own experience as to how well that worked for him, right?
It changed my life. Best decision I ever made. Like,
You say it changed your life.
It changed my life for the better. Like,
so in what way?
I'm so much more far ahead than what I was before. Like in the background, you can see I have a trailer, I have our website, I have characters that we've developed. If I never would have went to this school, Karlos, if I would have never met you that day on that route, I would not be able to have this presented to anybody. Like, my level of skill was so amateur-like. And once I went to that school and learned what I needed to learn there, it took me to a different level. I was exposed to different things, different assets, different people, and I was able to start to develop what we have here today. And we're still growing and still developing. And as I've been listening to the podcast, like a lot of the things that we talked about, they are facts. Meta, virtual reality, the way we're able to communicate and talk with people all over the world. Everybody that works with me does not live in the United States. I have one guy that lives in Egypt. He's a character designer. I have another guy that lives in Indonesia. He's a character designer. I have a programmer that lives in the United Kingdom. I live in Detroit, Michigan. But we're working together to make a video game work. So it's a lot of things that I've learned.
Listen, man, I get chills when he says all that. I get chills for real. So let me just say this, right? Mm-hmm. So for those of you guys that don't know, we're just going to say it right now. Thomas, what was your day job when I met you?
The United States Postal Service.
Thomas was the mailman, literally. Every day when we initially opened, Thomas would come in the evenings to deliver the mail, and we just so happened to have a conversation one day about what we do here at DSDT. Mm-hmm. And if not the same day, the next day he came back to speak with one of the reps in regards to the program, and he signed up immediately.
Yes.
Immediately. Mm-hmm. And so here we are now. We're having a conversation with my good friend Thomas. And Thomas is saying, listen, man, I'm not just in Detroit no more. I'm working with a team that's around the world. Man, that's phenomenal. Listen. That's phenomenal, because those are the types of opportunities that we created DSDT for.
Definitely.
You know, we have a graduation that's coming up, and I was watching some of the guests that'll be speaking. I was watching the videotapes last evening, and one of them specifically, I won't say his name, he said that DSDT doesn't necessarily just build the skill sets, but they build the individual.
Definitely.
That's why we're here, Josh. And I think you start to see that as a common theme in the individuals that we're talking to. Absolutely. All right, well, so don't let me take the whole show. I'm sorry. I apologize. It'll happen again.
It's okay, Karlos. It's okay. Now, one thing I want to pivot the conversation a little bit and learn more about what you are showing us behind you, Thomas.
Okay. So
what are we looking at exactly?
This is a game that I've developed called Princess of Galaxia. And so it is a role-playing game. I'll even have the trailer playing in the background without the sound, of course. Yeah. But when I first started at the school, my teacher, Eric Weiss at the time, he told me that we were going to be working with a program called Unreal Engine 4. And actually, Karlos was the first one that said it. When he spoke to me that day, when we were talking about things, and when he said that program, that's when I knew. I said, oh, this guy knows what he's talking about. Mm-hmm. Let me see what we're talking about as a whole here. And that's when I met Eric, and Eric started asking me a few questions. I had, at the time, I think I had a Facebook site, and that was it. Maybe a few pictures of some old games that I made. They used to look like the old 2D Pokemon games. But now I've gotten to the point where we're able to make 3D. I wasn't able to do this. And I'm still not even the best person. But what I've learned at this school is, and even like Tish said, you're not going to be good at everything. That's just impossible. If we were, everybody would be a one-man army. But you need people. You need people's help. So that's where I learned. Like, I may be good at level design, but when it comes to programming, I'm not good at that. When it comes to creating those characters, I'm not good at that either. I can draw you a nice picture and tell you, hey, turn this picture into this 3D character in your way with your skills. And that's what they've been doing. So that day when I came to class and I was ready to get taught, Eric told me, he said, well, okay, well, you need to come up with a concept. You need to have characters. You need to have the maps. You need to have the storyline, have all of the paperwork according with this game concept that we're going to start working on. I said, can it be something that I already worked on? He said, sure. I came in the next day with this binder, filled with everything. I said, I'm ready to go. He said, oh, okay. So we started working on level design. He started teaching me how to start adding in the grass, the trees, really just the basics at first, just the how, so I could understand how to utilize the program. And so when I started learning how to design it aesthetically, that's when I started learning more about, okay, how do you make this platform move when you jump on it? Or how do you make it move by itself? It's a certain program that you have to, a certain part of coding that you have to use, specifically with Unreal Engine 4 blueprints. But again, this wasn't my strength. So that's when I started looking for people to help me do this. But
you took the word right out. You have the knowledge to put together the blueprints, but you needed someone to help you learn the materials that were needed to make this project a reality.
Exactly. At least good. Like I could try to throw it all together, but it wouldn't have came out like this at all.
It's not about that. It's not about throwing it together. It's about making it perfect.
Exactly. At least close to it. You know,
at least close to it. What kind of console can this game be used for, or is it still in the development stages?
It's still in development phases, but for right now, it's going to be on a PC first. Once more funding and once we get more people on deck, then I'll be able to start, okay, let's start putting these on these consoles. It's really a simple process. You just reach out to these corporations, Microsoft, Sony. Hey, I have a pitch for you. I want to do this. They look at the game, and I'm shortening it up, of course, but they look at the game, they say, okay, I think we like this. We're going to send you a kit. We want you to make this game onto our special Xbox. It's like a really expensive Xbox or a really expensive Sony PlayStation. And then they have you develop the game and make sure that the space bar means X or the space bar means A. Or if you're shooting, instead of the letter Y, it's the square button on your PlayStation or it's the X button on your Xbox. You see what I mean? And so once you do all of that, then you send it back to them, and then they say, okay, approved. We want to sell it for this on our marketplace. Do you agree with it? Yes or no? Who's going to say no? Unless they say we want 95%, but I don't think they're going to do that. So that's the goal with all of this. We're going to start out on PC, and then we're going to go out to the consoles.
Thomas, wasn't prior to the pandemic, wasn't there like an invitation or something that you received to one of the big conferences or something of the other?
E3. So E3 is a convention where all of the publishing developers, all these companies, gamers, people that work with these companies, the developers themselves, they all go to this place and they all show off all this stuff. That's basically what it was about. And the ticket that I had was the one that was going to put me in the room with the VPs and all the other executives. It wasn't just a regular ticket just to walk around and look at everything. No, I was going to sit in the back room and be able to talk with people. But because of the pandemic, they canceled it.
Wow.
And I didn't have that opportunity. But this past year, they did a virtual one. It's not as effective, because it's not like Meta where it's like 3D. You just have a 2D avatar and you're just sending messages to people as much as you can. And I tried the best that I could with that, but I did get a company was called Game Clouding Network. They told me that if we have a good product by February, a nice demo, they're willing to invest in us. So that's our goal for right now. And even if that doesn't fall through, we'll go to somebody else.
We've been talking about content since the beginning of the show, and we're talking about video game development now. How much content is needed to put together a full video game, per se?
Well, the question is a good one or a bad one, really?
A good one.
Okay. So with a good video game, as much as possible, as much as it doesn't make you go bankrupt. Okay. I can't tell you how many things that I've done just to get our name out there, and it has helped. Whereas if I haven't done anything, if I didn't even, okay, for example, I have two of my girl characters, two of the female characters. They're two princesses in this game. They're friends with the main character, Yvonne. So I had one of the artists create a pose with all three of them just sitting down laughing. And then I was going to set that out, post that on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, advertise it just for a few dollars, just so a few people can see it. And just so I can get our name out there just a little bit. It could be a $20, $50 ad on Facebook that runs over the weekend. It may reach maybe 10,000, 20,000 people. Maybe out of that 20,000, maybe 200 people like it, whatever. All that matters is people see it and they say, oh, okay, I remember that. Because if one day they see it again, it'll be in their subconscious. And they'll say, oh, I remember that. Those were those girls sitting there laughing with each other. What is this about? This is my second time seeing this. And so content does matter. Because if you don't have content, how are they going to know about your stuff?
And you make a great point. As far as video game trailers, that is something that is new. When we were kids, the video game came out and you played it and you figured out whether or not you liked it not.
Right.
But now you have trailers such as as if it's a movie.
Mm-hmm. A lot has changed.
Can I back up for 1 second? I noticed he said when we were kids. What do you mean when you were a kid? I'm not that old. I don't know about you.
Well, I think I know what you mean. But I think like back then, I used to depend a lot on like the Game Informer magazines. When you would go to the game store, you would look at the strategy guide books there. And that'd be the best way to figure out, okay, this is how I beat this game. Whereas now, I can get on my smartphone and say, okay, how do you beat this boss on this level? Oh, you got to jump over the water when he spits fire out his mouth. Oh, okay, let's do that now. Whereas before, it was a task. Like it could be very complicated trying to figure out things, especially just in the video game world. I mean, as simple as it may sound, it was very complicated and frustrating sometimes trying to beat those bosses and learn about these video games back then. But now it's at the top step of our fingers right here.
Thomas, let me just say this. Let me say this to you, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I don't like you no more. I don't like you no more. You know why? Because at some point, someone after you is going to watch this content. They're going to be inspired, and they're going to know that they can do something other than what they're doing currently.
Yes.
I don't like you, my friend. I don't like you no more. You're not supposed to be doing this. Right?
Because he's an inspiration.
You don't come on our show and do that. Oh yeah. Don't do that. Josh and I are not here for you students to come on here and inspire. We do that. We're the only inspiration around here.
I gave you something to talk about too, right? That'll help you do that inspiration for other students that come along in the future. You'll have another story to tell, just like Tish, right? I'm like another bullet that you can have up in the chamber.
Yeah.
I like that.
You know what? You already know Josh what he deserves on top of all this, right?
Go for it.
You can. I'm just saying.
Right.
I'm just saying.
That's
Mic
right.
drop, burn it up. I mean, being really serious though, this is specifically what I love. As we sit and we're talking about the metaverse, we're talking about crypto. These are all programs here at DSDT that are front of the conversations. How do we offer programs along this technology that our students can access and be able to make a substantial lifestyle for themselves? I don't believe that you have to go away for 4 years in order to learn it. Thomas, is that true to form?
No, because I'll say this. I remember when I was like 20, I was still going to community college at the time. I always said I want to go to school for business. And I want to go to school for video games. I want to learn business so I'll know how to operate a video game business. So I went to Wayne State and I got my bachelor's degree in management. And then I came to DSDT and I learned about the video games. At first I was going to go to college of creative studies, but it was inconvenient with my work schedule, of course. So with those things that I learned, it wasn't just about the content that I learned in class, it was how I utilized it. So if anybody ever asks me, what did you learn at Wayne State? I'm not going to tell you I learned about the supply chain. I'm not going to tell you I learned about the immersion system within a management group. I'm not going to tell you that. I'm going to tell you I learned how to communicate and get things done with people. Like, you really can't do this stuff alone. Every business has a hierarchy. And what I learned with video games is how to understand that organizational hierarchy. So, I mean, yeah, I don't regret not going to school for that time. But it was really just more about the people that I met and the things that I learned through the people that I met. I had a teacher specifically tell me, I'll never forget, I was in marketing 101. He said, if you want to pass the class, read the book. If you want to learn something, listen to me. I never forgot those words.
Yeah.
Ever. Yeah. Because it means a lot. You know, that 2010, 11, 12 edition is going to change by 2020. So the experiences that man had of 50, 60 years or whatever, I don't think that's going to change because it's experience. You can always learn from somebody else's experiences so that you don't make the same mistakes or so that you can make the same right decisions. That way you don't have to waste your time making any mistakes because you already know what not to do or you already know what to do. So it's really just about the people you meet in school or any institution, work, wherever. It's about who you meet and what you learn from them and how you learn it and how you utilize it.
So here's a question for you. Can you give us the name of your company as well as the video game that you've been referencing throughout this piece?
So we are called Hardiman. Hardiman, AHRDYMOND. So you can go to rdiamond.com and then you can see this game on this website, Princess of Galaxia. It is a role-playing game. It takes place with a princess losing the kingdom to her older sister due to someone killing their father. So it gets really deep. And when you find out the real reason why the individual killed their father, you'll understand it's a lot deeper than just trying to take over a kingdom. It's really about taking over the universe. But since that's why it's called Princess of Galaxia. So I urge anybody that has an interest in video games, period, or just want to check it out just for the visuals. Like, there's people that don't play video games and they look at this stuff when I show it to them and they just like, I like the way it looks. That's cool. Thank you. So if there's any support we can have, you can go to our website. You can check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. If you type in Hardiman, I guarantee you will find something on the internet. I guarantee it.
Perfect.
And I appreciate this opportunity too. Really do. And yeah, there we go.
And give us that website again.
Hardiman.com. AHRDYMOND.com. And it'll pop right up as we can see right here on the podcast. So this is when on the home page here. And you scroll over, these are the two games. The Omni 30 Nights. That is an older game that I had. The 2D one, it is for sale for $9.99. But this one here, Princess of Galaxia, this is the baby right here. This And this isn't even the final version. This is old content that I'm showing you. The game that we have now is a much better version than this. So I'm very excited for this to be released. From what I talked to with my programmer about, he said we're actually ahead. So I may be able to have something out sooner than February, hopefully sometime in January, but we'll see. And here is an older game that I made, Downey 30 Nights. And one other thing I needed to add in is this game connects to Princess of Galaxia in a very subtle way, though, a very subtle way. But that's what all of my games do. They all connect in some kind of way. And once you play all of them, or anybody plays all of them, you'll see the different connections, because there are more games that I'm coming out with. And then you'll see the climax, and then you'll say, oh, okay, now I understand this game in particular because I played all of these other ones. But that's later on down the road. Right now, we're just going to focus on what we have.
I like it.
Thank you.
Mike drop.
Right. DSDT. I'm telling you, man, I'm a fan. I am a fan. I don't even play video games no more. I'm just saying.
Oh, no?
I'm too old for video games. I'm just saying. But I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Thank you. I do appreciate it. We're working hard, too. We're working very hard. We really are. We're going to get it done.
Wow. Well, Thomas, we want to thank you for showing up and showing out today.
Hey,
you know what I'm saying? Showing up and showing out. If everyone were to follow their dreams as you have, and in fact, I didn't even know that you already had a degree at that. That is definitely information for me. And just because you've gotten a degree doesn't mean that your learning stops.
Exactly.
I've actually had a number of individuals who had obtained, whether it was their master's degrees, and still came back to DSDT because they wanted to be a videographer. And I literally remember having that conversation. So it just goes to show you that the more you learn, it's cliche, the more you earn. The more you earn, and you kind of have to be, especially in these days and ages, you have to be like a jack of many trades.
Absolutely.
You have to do so many things and be willing to try so many things in order to get ahead. There's a difference between the guy standing in front of the camera getting the Will Smith type of offers and the guy that's still chasing the dream that's the bus boy at the supermarket. There's a difference. You have to show up and show out and be willing to go that extra mile. And by all means, you show that. We can sit here right now and watch your pieces and see what you've been doing with your time, man. Bravo. Bravo. Bravo.
I appreciate it. I really do. I couldn't have did it without you all. I couldn't have. I would not be here if it wasn't for that day. And I remember you all had I think it was a job convention for Ford. I remember it like it was yesterday. We talked about a few things, and I told you some things, and you said, hey, why don't you come on in here? Never forget, it changed my life, man. So thank you again for that.
So we'll be inviting you back definitively for a conversation.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And I'd love to have you come and speak probably at one of our open houses with our students. You are an inspiration. Thank you again, my friend.
I appreciate it. Let me know. I'll be around. We'll try to fit it in my busy post office schedule.
Well, we have to thank Tish and Thomas once again. Great dialogue today.
I kind of understand why we even kick the can down the road as to why we should start these podcasts, and I think when you have individuals like Thomas and even Tish, they show up and they give us the dialogue that they have. It's just, why not? It just makes sense. This is what DSDT is about. This is what our programs are about. I remember specifically, Thomas, how many days I used to go back to the classroom where he was being taught. And you would have literally maybe 8 students in the class and 8 students doing various things within the curriculum. Actually, Thomas and 2 other gentlemen were doing the game development. And I thought that was so unique, because the classroom isn't necessarily about the instructor just standing up and going, wow, 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 wow. It's about, Thomas, you want to do game development? Let's do it. Young man, you want to do videography? Let's do it. You want to do 3D animation? Let's do it. Let's do it all with this environment so everybody walks away being fulfilled, as opposed to being like, why did I even take that class? So that was the diamond within the rough, wherein he was able to get something out of the curriculum that I find more inspirational than anything. And I'm truly, truly indebted to him now, because that story is worth its weight in gold.
Oh, yes. And it's a story that is going to follow. More people are going to pick up on it for sure.
Yeah. Bravo. Good
Bravo. Stuff. Well, thank you, Tish. Thank you, Thomas. For Karlos, I'm Josh. This is the Tech School Podcast powered by DSDT. See ya.
See ya.